Millions of voters in Guinea have cast their ballots. It's the second democratic election since independence, but the opposition says there's been widespread fraud. So will Guinea pass the test of democracy, or will violence and ethnic tensions undermine it? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Folly Bah ThibaultGuests. Voting has gone off peacefully and the ballots are being counted in Guinea's presidential election. But there are fears about what will happen next. President Alpha Condé is expected to win a second term, but opposition parties have already warned they'll reject the result, which they say is rigged. Many hope this election will cement the democratic process in Guinea. It's only the second attempt at a democratic vote Guineans have had since gaining independence from France in 1958. Sékou Touré was Guinea's first post-independence leader, but led a brutal dictatorship for close to 3 decades. Years of coups and military rule followed until 2010, when Alpha Condé became the first president elected through a free vote. But Condé's support has waned during his term. He's been criticized for his response to the Ebola crisis and the poverty that grips much of Guinea. So lots to discuss today with our guests on Inside Story. But first, Al Jazeera's Victoria Gatenby looks back at how the vote went.
This was only Guinea's second democratic presidential election since independence almost 60 years ago, and voter turnout was high. But as people waited to cast their ballots, they were mindful of the violence that had marred the election campaign.
Let peace be assured in Guinea, and that Guineans shake hands. We're all brothers, same mother, same father in Guinea. There's no racism. Everybody should know this, and everyone should come out to vote. That's all that I ask of Guineans.
It's estimated that out of the 7 million people eligible to vote, 6 million people cast their ballot. Among them, President Alpha Condé, who is widely expected to win a second term.
I came to perform my civic duty. I hope that things do well, because Guinea needs peace, Guinea needs unity.
72 European Union observers were part of an international delegation which monitored the vote.
There were certain electoral materials missing. There were some late poll openings, but things that will be able to be fixed, and which are, from what I understand, being fixed. So overall, up until this moment, we feel we're seeing an election which is living up to our expectations.
But one of the main opposition parties, the UFDG, called the election a masquerade and said fraud was widespread.
This is a time to be vigilant, to ensure that the votes of the people of Guinea are respected, that there is security and the best candidate wins.
Nearly 20,000 police officers and security guards were deployed as people headed to the polls. And in the end, voting took place peacefully. But as election officials count the votes, people in Guinea are braced for more possible violence once the result is announced. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
Well, let's now bring in our guests in Conakry. Joining us via Skype, Adrian Fielding, consultant at Africa Practice, a strategy and communications consultancy. In Paris, France, we have Oumar Camara, Director of Publications for Guinean Affairs. And in Dakar, Senegal, via Skype, Gaye, Africa Affairs analyst and former Director of Information for the Economic Community of West African States. Gentlemen, welcome to you all. Thank you for being on Inside Story. Adrian Fielding, if I may begin with you in Conakry. Tell us first how the votes on Sunday went in your view. Was this a free and fair election?
Well, I think I would echo what the EU said in their midday press conference, that there was quite a few mismanagement issues here and there, notably with voter lists not being organized alphabetically and general electoral flaws like voting materials missing, indelible ink, ballots and all that. But overall, I would judge from what I saw. I went to about 10 polling stations and I saw that they were more or less free and fair. There was a lot of tension, but notably those trying to get their votes cast. But overall, I would, if I have a say in this, yes, I would say it was free and fair.
What is at stake, Adrian, in this particular election in Guinea?
Well, I think the stakes are actually really quite high. notably democratic entrenchment. So it was only the second genuinely democratic election, and Alpha Condé, for all his flaws, has been a relatively respectful president when it comes to democratic process. And if this election is as transparent as I hope it is, then that will do a lot for the country in terms of future progression in democratic process advancements, basically.
Oumar in Paris, as a Guinean, what were voters' foremost concerns? What do they want? What do Guineans want from their next leader?
I think what the Guineans want is someone who will face the minimum, who will be able to provide some minimum services like providing water, providing electricity, providing health services. And I think in this way, maybe the most important factor for the current president is that for many people, he is the one who is able to bring, let's say, electricity in Conakry and in some of the towns in Western Guinea.
Okay, so electricity is a foremost issue for voters then?
Of course, because for, let's say, many years now, we face shortages in electricity in Conakry, and Mr. Alpha Condé is the one who brought electricity to Conakry. This is the opinion of many people in Guinea.
Yeah, that is seen as one of the achievements of the last 5 years. Adama Gaye in Dakar, President Alpha Condé is widely expected to win a second term, but would a first round victory for him be legitimate in your opinion? Will the result be credible if Alpha Condé is declared the winner in the first round?
Of course, you have heard recently some people saying that he may be the outright winner in the first round of election. But of course, already the opposition, 7 candidates of the opposition are claiming fraud and rejecting this as a possibility. One has to be very careful to accept what may be said by, suppose, the electoral observers, because they are known often to be people used to come over into African countries to do electoral tourism and to bless electoral processes that are not usually clean. And of course, some people are involved in public relations, in whitewashing of leaders, and this is not good. We want real democratic processes so that the winner is widely accepted, that the democracy is transparent. Otherwise, it will be a problem in Guinea or beyond Guinea in other countries of the region. You know, in Cote d'Ivoire, they are going to have elections very soon. In Burkina Faso, they are going to have elections. And we have in Senegal, in Guinea-Bissau, across the region, West Africa region, ECOWAS region, people are watching and wanting to see that this electoral process is really transparent. And I think that for Alpha Condé, whom I've known for more than 25 years, he deserves to be elected on the basis of it's transparent. Otherwise, he should allow democratic process to go its full course so that the winner is definitely chosen, even if he should be somebody from the opposition. But we should not rule out the possibility of somebody from the opposition winning this.
Adrian, Adama Gaye says we should be very careful about what election observers say. Same question to you as I asked Adama. Will the election be credible if Alpha Condé is declared the winner in the first round and there's no runoff election?
Well, firstly, in order to answer Adama, I would tend to agree with that. There is, unfortunately, a relatively moderate to high tolerance of small electoral inefficiencies. So nobody expects this poll to be fully free and fair. There are issues, and those have already come up, notably at the very start. I mean, on the day before the poll, 400,000 voters still did not have their voter card. talking about a first-round victory, which, in my opinion, is the worst outcome with regards to violence, because a first-round victory will necessarily result in violence. I personally do not think that it's out of this world to imagine a genuine first-round victory, but it would. I would think that it would need some tweaking by the incumbent powers in order to succeed in the first round. I don't think it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely.
But a Condé victory, you agree, in the first round represents the biggest risk of violence?
Yes, I would tend to believe so, yes.
Okay. Well, like in many parts of Africa, politics in Guinea is traditionally divided along ethnic lines. Alpha Condé's ruling party is largely supported by Malinké, who make up 35% of the population and the majority of the army. Opposition leader Cellou Dalein Diallo is mostly backed by the Pearl, Guinea's largest ethnic group at around 40%. Conflict between the two groups, mostly over land, goes back hundreds of years, but has been particularly problematic since Guinea gained independence. Guinea's first post-independence leader, Sékou Touré, who became one of Africa's worst dictators, gave the Malinké many of the top government jobs, fueling resentment. Oumar Camara in Paris. Politics in Guinea, like I said, like in many parts of Africa, is divided along ethnic lines. When you speak to people in Guinea today, do you get a sense that they voted along ethnic lines on Sunday? Did the Pearls vote for Cellou Dalein Diallo and the Malinkés vote for Alpha Condé?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, for many people in Guinea, there is not actually, let's say, kind of ideological division, but mainly an ethnical one, and this is the responsibility of the leaders who try to achieve their goals through, let's say, tribal politics. Unfortunately, I agree that many of the voters did vote to the person with whom they feel they have ethnical links.
Adrian, do you agree with that? Did people choose on Sunday based on a candidate's ethnic origin?
Yeah, and I would tend to agree, especially given the 2010 and 2013 results. I don't think there's been much difference since then. First results are coming through, and they do show very, very high results for Alpha Condé, even in non-traditionally Malinké strongholds, such as Nzerekore and Forikaria.
So then are you saying that it's not necessarily the case then that people voted along ethnic lines if non-traditional Malinké areas are voting for Alpha Condé?
I would agree with the fact that Kaleta may have swung some people in places like Forikaria, which benefited from some of the electricity generated by the Kaleta hydropower dam. The issue, I do think there may be some, basically some of the control over the local election management may be swinging votes here and there. We don't know much about the results so far, but indications tend to show that basically, yes, it may actually be slightly more in favor of Alpha Condé from the other ethnic groups, maybe not the Pearl themselves, but the smaller ethnic groups, perhaps.
Okay, Adama Gaye in Dakar, what is your view on this issue of ethnicity in politics in Guinea and in Africa as a whole? I mean, we saw the ethnic tensions bubble in Guinea in the lead up to the vote, and both Alpha Condé and Cellou Dalein Diallo, it seems, have failed to address the ethnic issue. Do you think they have exploited it in a way?
Of course, it's a basis for electoral victories in many countries, from Guinea-Conakry to Côte d'Ivoire to Kenya to Rwanda. Across the continent, the ethnic card is still being played. And it has been more the case in Guinea-Conakry because since the time of Sékou Touré, when the Malinkés ruled the country, the Fulani, the Pearl, considered themselves to be sidelined because they were seen as the ethnic group that was in charge of the economy and not to be given the chance to also control the political dimension of the country. No, Mr. Condé has been smart enough to go beyond his Malinke basis to talk to the Fulani and the other tribal groups. But at the end of the day also, there is another factor one needs to include to ensure that this electoral process is properly organized. Because you have almost 8 candidates, out of which at least 4 of them are very solid candidates. Alpha Condé, who is the current president, Sidia Touré, who is the former prime minister, Lansana Kouyaté, who is the former executive secretary of ECOWAS, and Selou Dane Diallo, who is the former prime minister. These are powerful candidates, and they carry along their ethnic groups. I think that the ethnic card is still there, and you can see the outcome of it if there is an outright victory of Mr. Alpha Condé. This may happen, but it can lead to sometimes problems. I think that the ethnic card should need to be also managed, as, for instance, in the case of South Africa, the racial card was properly managed by Nelson Mandela in West Africa. You need to make sure that there is a tent whereby everybody, all the ethnic groups, feel comfortable and be associated in the management of the countries. Otherwise, you will only have this grudge and this fighting that will erupt after any election.
Oumar, in Paris, in 2010, Alpha Condé campaigned on a platform of national unity and, eventually he won some regions that didn't represent his ethnic groups. He promised national unity and reconciliation in Guinea among the various ethnic groups of the country. Did that happen?
I can say no. We cannot say that the Alpha Condé government was very characterized by inclusivity, let's say, for most of the time. But what we can feel is the last month he is making a move towards, let's say, the Fulani group, and we feel that there is a kind of change. I'm not sure that if he is elected this time, things will be worse than what they are or what they used to be. I think we are going to have more inclusivity. You think there'll be? I think things will change.
You think things will change, and we're likely to see reconciliation, perhaps?
If he is what? Yeah. If Mr. Alpha Condé is elected, I think things will change in a certain way. But definitely, yes, for most of the let's say first years of his reign, we cannot say that there was inclusivity in his government.
Okay, Adrian, in Conakry, tell us about Alpha Condé's record. You mentioned the Keleta hydropower dam, which was inaugurated not long ago, bringing electricity to many homes in Guinea, because that's a real issue for voters, as we heard Oumar say in Paris. What did Alpha Condé accomplish in the last 5 years? He has been criticized, of course, for the handling of the Ebola crisis, but have they been positives during these 5 years?
So, as you mentioned, and I would tend to agree with the fact that he hasn't had an ideal track record, mostly undermined by the fact that he had very lofty promises in 2010, which were going to be almost impossible to keep. One of the main ones in a country as resource-rich as Guinea was the mining sector reform, a process which he estimated it to be between 6 months and 12 months long, and it has still not completely been wrapped up. And on the mining side, obviously this was compounded by global iron ore prices and resources generally. The commodities prices plunged, and Ebola. But given all of the obstacles that he's faced, it's not surprising that he hasn't succeeded too much. That being said, there are some obvious examples that have come up, like Keleta, but also he has improved relations with the Chinese hugely. There are 1 or 2 quite prominent mining projects that have gone through in relatively rapid pace. But overall, his track record was nowhere near as good as it should be.
Okay. Adama Gaye, in Dakar, Adrian mentioned there the improvement of relations with the Chinese. What about relations with the former colonial power, France? It's no secret that Alpha Condé is a darling of France. I mean, he is France's candidate, I think. What has been France's role and influence in this election?
Oh, this time around, we can't say that France has played an important role in the process compared to what happened in 2010, when the then Foreign Affairs Minister of France, Bernard Kouchner, was a former classmate of Alpha Condé, and some suspected him to have helped him become the president by overcoming its huge gap behind Mr. Cellou Dalein Diallo. In the first round, Mr. Cellou Dalein Diallo had collected almost 44% of the electoral vote, whereas Alpha Condé had only 24%. So this time around, France is very careful. It knows that there is people's power in Africa through the networks of the social media network, through the newspapers. People don't want outsiders, be they former foreign powers or even within the political circle, to dictate them what they want to have in their country. You have seen what happened in Burkina Faso when ECOWAS plan was rejected, when France's attempt to intervene was rejected. So in the case of Guinea this time around, the turnout that has been massive of electoral indicate that they want to vote and they don't want the election to be stolen. So I think that those who are saying first round, one knockout for Alpha Condé are somehow making a risky claim. They should allow the democratic process to go through so that if Alpha Condé wins properly, he can extend his hand and bring along all the others under reconciliation to carry them along towards reconciliation and nation building that Guinea is yearning for since its independence in 1958. I don't think that France, and for that matter, any outside powers may have a very essential role to play. However, you have some whitewashers, public relations organizations, and international observers who do not understand the real yearning for democratic process and equality within the management of the resources for African countries. That may be the problem.
Okay, Adrian, if Alpha Condé wins, will the opposition accept the result? Will Cellou Dalein Diallo accept the result? Will the Pearl, who've never been in power in Guinea, accept this result?
Well, the opposition, all 7 opposition candidates held a press conference today saying that they want the vote itself annulled, cancelled completely, before the first round results even come out. So the basic answer is no. Right now, I don't think that's not an option. The cancellation of the vote is not an option. But once the results come out on Tuesday or on Wednesday, then there will be claims of fraud. There already are claims of fraud, and they will simply not recognize the result.
Okay, we'll give the last word to Oumar in Paris. Oumar, as a Guinean, what are your hopes for the future of the country?
My hope is that, first of all, if the Electoral Commission says that Mr. Alpha Condé wins this election on the first round, I think it will be very risky. It will be very risky. And so I hope that Mr. Alpha Condé and the opposition leaders will find a solution to avoid a conflict, because what I feel is that in both sides, people are very, let's say, ready to compete for the power. So they have to make sure that this competition won't bring a conflict in the country.
Okay, let's just hope that calm then prevails. Thank you so much for an interesting discussion, gentlemen. Adrian Fielding in Conakry, Adama Gaye in Dakar, and Oumar Camara in Paris. Thank you all. And thank you as well for watching. As always, you can leave your comments on the program page of our website, aljazeera.com. You can also post your views on facebook.com/AJ Inside Story or tweet us at AJ Inside Story. Thanks for watching. From me, Folly Bah Thibault, and the whole team, bye for now.